Welcome to the AP Cast with Alex Manfreda and Phil Robinson. Welcome, everybody. This is the second installment on the unfiltered truth of the AP Cast. I'm your host, Phil Robinson. With me, Alex Manfreda. How's it, the AP Cast? Is this punctuationally correct? Alex, where you at?
Yo, Phil, my bad, dude. I was having some technical issues, but we good now. What's going on, Phil?
Hey, I can't call it. Season's over with a game left to play. Make it make sense.
Yeah, man. Season's over with the game left to play.
We are out to playing the proverbial string.
It's true, but although the season is over, it's still something to watch because, it's an AFC West matchup, so there's that.
Not only that, not only is it an AFC matchup, which makes it very a good quote rivalry game to go out and an indication of where the team is moving forward, but it leaves Antonio Pierce with an opportunity to leave as the interim coach with a winning record.
Yeah, and that's key for sure. A lot of factors in that. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe if he wins this game, did they lose a single game to a division rival under AP? Was the first game versus the Chiefs under AP?
No, I do not believe that it was. I believe the first game under AP was the Giants.
Oh, yeah. So they would
He
have
has beaten every single one of the AFC West divisional opponents, including the Chiefs in Arrowhead.
and that's massive. That is massive.
It may not be enough.
That's definitely something we're going to have to talk about.
It may not be enough because playoffs was the desire, and they're not going to get there.
Yeah, they're not going to get there. And they might not have even gotten there had they won both games, to be fair. So, had they won, the Colts game last week and this upcoming game, it was a long shot regardless. They got to a point 9-8. Sorry, they wouldn't have controlled their own fate anymore. They needed things to go right. They might have made it, but chances are they weren't going to make it regardless. So,
yeah, it started drying up pretty quick once the Chiefs beat the Bengals. While that helped the wild card, that eliminated them from the division, and it just kind of snowballed from there for them. But it is what it is. It's been quite the season. The fact that they managed to turn around the ship, bail some of that water out, and start floating and sailing again was was remarkable. And debating the credentials of Antonio Pierce coming out of the season versus going in, there's a big discussion to be had there, and we'll wait and we'll do it in stride, keep it in stride. But I'm in the process of writing an article about that anyway. But that is a very interesting point that you brought up, and the fact that Antonio Pierce has not lost a division game. Antonio Pierce has set the single game franchise point total.
yeah, for sure. There's definitely a lot of factors in this, and I think one of the big factors is that Mark Davis has been in this situation before, recent as 2 years ago with Rich Bisaccia, and I think that is a defining factor in this.
One would hope.
He would.
One would hope, but there's been a lot of banter already, and Harbaugh is getting the full Chucky treatment.
Yeah, he certainly is. And I'm a Michigan fan, so I've been following that myself in a different limelight in the Michigan path instead of the Raiders path. So, no, that's real.
Yeah, that's definitely real. And so we'll see. But I mean, you've seen that you look at some of the press conferences today, and some of the press conferences that have had that you're starting to see. Patrick Graham actually spoke with the media for quite a while yesterday, and the overall tone of his message was the sheer joy that he had being here, the way the guys took to him, the way he took to them, the way that they started approaching their business together, they're like-minded, and the way that you want your team to be. And you saw what the result on the field was, and he said this was his favorite coaching experience, bar none.
Yeah,
That's
and
Go ahead.
it would be a travesty if, for whatever reason, Patrick Graham is not part of the coaching staff next year.
Yes, it would be. Yes, it would be. But again, that's so Tim Brown had said something about change, part of change coming and doing away with your comfort when you're in the midst of change.
Yeah, man. Yeah, I don't know, man. I don't really know what Tim Brown's trying to say because it's all moving parts regardless. Like Antonio Pierce is a new part. I know he's already been on the team in some regard, but like it's totally new part with him being a head coach and Champ Kelly rising to interim. So regardless, it's maybe that's what he's saying. Like no matter what happens, that's what it's going to be like. So maybe he's saying that more along hinting that there's going to be a new regime because, again, like this is new regardless. So I don't know.
No, it is definitely something to look at moving forward. Like I said, the season's not over yet. It's not Sunday yet, although that is swiftly approaching. But it's that time of year. You don't make it to the playoffs. It is what it is, right?
Yeah, certainly. The Raiders are playing for a streak though too, because when's the last time they lost to Denver? I mean, 5-6 years ago. I don't remember off the top of my head, but it has been a while.
3 years. Haven't lost in 3 years.
3 years.
Yeah, up to 6 games. Because remember, the last time we played the Denver Broncos was the first game of the year.
Yeah. Yep.
And nobody wants to lose to the Broncos, especially given the situation they have with Russell Wilson. For if you'd have told me we were playing the Broncos without Russell Wilson, I'd be like, they don't have a chance.
No, for sure. So I looked it up, and they've beaten Denver the last 7 times. So since they moved to Vegas, they haven't actually lost to the Broncos. Okay. And that's definitely something to keep alive, man. You know, like since you're the Las Vegas Raiders, you have not lost to a divisional opponent. That's something to hang your hat on. So they're playing for something here.
Yeah. So the Las Vegas Raiders had never beaten the Chiefs.
At home?
At home?
I believe.
No, on the bus did. They were Vegas then, weren't they? No.
Jesus, man. Yeah, we're struggling today. We are not on our game today.
No, well, from what I've been watching, it really took me off the game. But at the same point, it's the end of the year speech anyway because they didn't make the playoffs, so it is what it is.
Yeah, certainly.
The timing, and the tone of it is so embrace that hurt, bottle it up, look at it every once in a while, breathe it in, so you can remember to make the fucking playoffs next year. Jesus.
Yeah, I mean, Dude, what's crazy is we've talked about this so many weeks, week in and week out. The team is just so talented from the roster standpoint, and it's hard. It's so hard to look at these last 2 years and look at how they've ended. And this year, since AP took over, it's been a completely different team. So you can see that, but man, the Josh McDaniels effect has been rough. There's no other way to say that.
But it was forewarned to us by these very same Denver's fans that we're about to experience an encounter coming on Sunday. So they told us this was what you could look forward to with Josh McDaniels as the head coach, and once again, nobody believed him.
Hey, Josh McDaniels 3-0 versus the Broncos as the Raiders head coach. So
you said, I may not beat anybody else, but I will beat you.
Exactly. He went to go beat his old teams, man. He's 3-0 versus the Broncos as the Raiders head coach, 2-0 versus the Patriots as the Raiders head coach. Not much else after that, but hey, he set out to beat his old teams, and he did just that.
Hey, if he knows everything about you, he can scheme. He can come up with a scheme. If he knows absolutely everything about you, has to watch you practice every day for at least a couple weeks with a camera that you don't know about.
Yeah, man, for sure.
So he can prepare for absolutely everything because they be cheating.
Hey, even Denver knew they weren't that good. Don't forget.
Yeah. We ain't that. We really wasn't good. We was cheating.
Classic, man. Yeah, that might be Josh McDaniels. Might be what he's most known for out of anything as a head coach. That's pretty wild.
I mean, he did the whole. I have to go back and rewatch that because, how do you feel about that? That you just find out your coach y'all been winning games because your coach has been straight up cheating.
I love how very quickly, this turned into an episode of just destroying Josh McDaniels, who has not been with the team in over a month. Unintentional, but I'm with it.
Hey, no, it's all part of the big. It's all part of the big reveal. Because as you talk about how bad he was and how much he let this team down, how he started the year and how his heir apparent chosen man was not good enough to do anything for the team.
Oh my
God! Under his guidance and control, the draft pick that he didn't want to play was his best option all around, and that was a guy that nobody wanted drafted in the first place.
Yeah, man.
Yeah. And somehow, with all of those negative factors, with all of that decay, rot, cancer from within, say your linebacker coach, who's never coached never coordinated a unit in the pros, is now the guy that has got the entire world buzzing.
Yeah, and
go ahead.
Yeah, real quick, this is just a classic example of how X's and O's are vastly overrated in football. Now, theoretically, X's and O's are the entire game, and, on paper, that's true. But there's so much more to that in reality, and you need charisma, you need to be able to relate to the locker room, you need to, create bonds with your guys. And Josh McDaniels, who by all accounts is pretty genius as far as X's and O's go, he struggles in every other area, and you look how far that got the Raiders, who we talk about, again, on paper, they're quite a good team, and offensively especially, and that's Josh McDaniels' bread and butter, offense, and he just couldn't get it done with all those pieces because although he's very good at X's and O's, he struggled in every other area. And Antonio Pierce walks in, who is not an X's and O's mastermind, at least not in this stage of his career, because it's his first 2 months as a head coach. He wasn't prepared for this, but he just has that charisma. He can relate to you, he can create bonds, and people follow him. They want to follow him, and the team is so vastly different in a much better perspective because just from that. So X's and O's, man, in theory, they're so important, but they're really not, man. There's so much more that you need to be able to do, and Antonio Pierce proves that.
So Absolutely. And more to the point, this is the largest issue that I have with all of this moving forward. The arguments that continue to come up are usually short-sighted and really, really heavily slanted. Go ahead, we'll go with that. How do you judge how good a head coach is versus the next head coach when the next head coach is going to be able to come in and completely change everything instead of being forced to work with the same roster that the previous one did? That
Yeah,
you handcuff a man to the Titanic, then put him on the bow of the boat and tell him to steer away from the iceberg with using only his feet. Somehow, by some stroke, this man almost actually manages to do it. So, but you're gonna let somebody else come in and get a brand new boat and steer around the iceberg, and they were a success over the last guy you had because why?
yeah. No, I totally agree with you. And that speaks volumes to Antonio Pierce that none of these guys are his guys, you know? And that's not to say he wouldn't want these guys. He might pick the whole team to stick with if he becomes the regular full-time head coach. We don't know that. But the point is that these were not the guys that this isn't the roster that he constructed. It's the roster Josh McDaniels and Dave Ziegler constructed. And Antonio Pierce he has the team over and he's game planning with them as if it was the guys he handpicked.
Yeah, and they're his guys. They're the guys he's got to work with when he came in here to get it done. He believes in them because that's what he's got to work with, and we're gonna go out there and we're gonna make it happen. So they went out there with swagger. They went out there with attitude. They went out there, played hard every single week, got better every single week across the board. They flat. They weren't good enough to be they just couldn't make it happen on offense. Be it because of play call with a first time offensive coordinator because you fired the other two guys that knew the offense.
Yeah, it was a mess. But this is actually a very important thing moving forward and a very important thing to talk about in regards to why you should consider Antonio Pierce seriously. Because ultimately, all this that's happening it falls in the category of adjustment. And adjustment is maybe the most important thing for coaching. And part of adjusting is exactly what Antonio Pierce is doing, being that it's not his handpicked guys, but he's working with them. He's making something happen with guys that were, it was out of his control. And again, maybe he would pick these guys moving forward. Maybe he'd keep them all. Maybe he wouldn't. That's neither here nor there. The point is that this was not like his game plan. This wasn't his handpicked guys that he had a plan for, like it was Josh McDaniels. And Antonio Pierce just came up with something on the fly to make it work with everybody.
And in the on the making it on the fly work, God convinced them all to buy in.
Yeah, certainly.
While they were making it happen on the fly. Do you know how much of a leader you have to be to convince 53 people to do anything together cohesively as one?
Yeah.
And to be able to do it inside of a week.
Yeah, man. Absolutely.
Now, it was some emo players that were uniting against somebody who wasn't fucking Josh McDaniels? There could be some of that. I'm not gonna say that it's not. I'm not gonna say that it is because I don't know. I'm not over there. But the likelihood of that is very, very low. When you look at the way the captains have come out and started speaking on everybody else's on behalf of the team.
Yeah, man. And even if it was that they were just, rallying around someone that's Josh McDaniel, that's not Josh McDaniel, sorry. That lasts for a week or two. After that, it's gone, Then you're focused on who the actual guy is that's no longer Josh McDaniels. And they've still bought in since since week 1, and then after week 2 or 3, when those emotions would have went on, had it been that they were just, in spite of Josh McDaniels, they were rooting for AP. Now they're rooting for AP because it's AP. I mean, there's nothing you can even say against that.
They've rocked with AP through losing streaks. Righted the ship, lost it. Will they get an opportunity to ride it again? It looks like they'll have at least one. And one of the things that I looked at was the the divisional games, like you said. If he wasn't going to be able to win every game and go into the playoffs, what if he won all of the divisional games? I'm like, this man he's done so much with so little that at minimum said he would have earned an off season to give me one more year to see what he could do with a full off season, for him to be able a training camp, an off season program. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I think there's also an aspect here where Mark Davis, he doesn't have to give AP the most lucrative offer. I'm guessing, I can't really say that definitively, but not just because AP it doesn't have all this experience, and he might be lucky to get a head coaching offer from one team, but also because AP is a Raider fan. He's a Raider through and through. I'm sure that if he had an offer from every single team, all identical offers, he would no question pick the Raiders. So there's a lot of advantages Mark Davis has. He doesn't have to give AP this 10-year deal that he gave John Gruden, or this 6-year deal that he gave McDaniels. He doesn't have to give him anything like that.
But no, he doesn't. He definitely doesn't. But again, you start going down the line and looking at your points of debate and realize that you're making too much sense. We could name off every single reason why Antonio Pierce should be the head coach of this football team moving forward. From Hall of Fame players, Hall of Fame coaches, media who've watched it for years, players who are playing it right now, coaches who are coaching it right now. Fans who can tell momentum when they see it, or the NFL promotion and marketing team that knows a hot new star to ride behind when they see one.
Yeah, certainly, man. And I think that let's talk about Jim Harbaugh for a bit, because obviously that's the hot name, and that's all what the center is on, Jim Harbaugh for the Raiders. I do not like this fit at all. And, normally I might be more keen to it, but there's a problem here, being the Raiders' recent history of coaches and how it ends and how it's going. And it's always a carousel, right? They bring in a new guy, a lot of roster turnover, doesn't work out for one reason or another. The guy's gone and a new guy comes in, roster turnover, doesn't work out for one reason or another. A new guy comes in with a roster that wasn't his, and he has to turn it all over again. Well, right now, what's happening is AP has a roster that he's worked well with. And I think that he's going to retain all the core pieces anyway. Why wouldn't he? The team is already built for somebody to come in who works well with them and play well. I mean, Hunter Renfrow is the wide receiver 4, for Christ's sakes. Come on. And
you ready for a hot take?
What's up?
Said he won't be here next year.
I don't think he will either, but I'm just saying, man, it's ready for a coach to come in and use Hunter Renfrow as a wide receiver 4. I mean, that's just ridiculous. That's just unfair. So my point is, you get a guy like Jim Harbaugh, what happens is Harbaugh has to tweak the roster, because that's what kind of coach he is, as most coaches are. It's not a slight to him, to bring in his guys and transform the roster and his image. The roster is at a point where that does not need to happen. The offense on paper is immaculate, and the defense on the field is immaculate. People will say, well, the defense might not have as many good names as so-and-so, but look at the way they're performing. Who cares about the names as long as they're performing like that? You know what I'm saying? And Patrick Graham is going to stay, assuming that there's no lucrative offer where he's a head coach somewhere else. He's probably going to stay defensive coordinator for the Raiders if AP is there. I can't imagine a change there. But if Jim Harbaugh comes in, and I'm not saying Harbaugh will replace Graham, but I'm saying you never know. So if it's not broken, don't fix it. And it seems like with Harbaugh, you'd be trying to patch a problem that doesn't exist with something that has created problems for the Raiders for, decades. So I don't like it. The timing is just so off.
The time it's just so unnecessary to me because let's go. We'll go there. Fuck it. I don't care. You have the opportunity to have an African American head coach who has been a lifelong fan of the team, who's a Super Bowl champion. Who if you really want to go down, it's Pearson Harbaugh is so similar that it's crazy. Because if you had rolled back the clock 10 years, you would have Jim Harbaugh and Pierce. They would be virtually the same guy. They both were excellent players. Went to the Super Bowl. Pierce won. Harbaugh did not.
Yeah.
Which is a key point, because if you want to talk about winning the big game, that's what Jim doesn't do.
Yeah, well, he might change that narrative.
He'll get blown out by Washington.
As a Michigan fan, I hope not. That would be heartbreaking.
Blown out. They're not ready. They're not ready for that precision level of passing. And if they try blitzing Michael Penix Jr., that'd be the worst mistake they could make.
It would be. And Michael Penix is a subject that we should talk about because he might be a candidate for the Raiders. Personally, I think that he goes higher than when the Raiders are up anyway, but it's something to talk about.
So as we talk about as you brought that up, I'll say this. And this is a situation, a unique situation, and I don't frequently say this, or it's said as a joke most of the time, but right now I actually mean it. Fuck those picks. Go up and get your guy, because as you said, the way that this roster is constructed to win right now. Right. Now it's a rookie, obviously, and you're not going to expect your rookie to be a Super Bowl champion. That's wild and crazy, probably. But the reality is that you nearly made the playoffs with a fourth-round draft pick who has an inability to break the tackle box so he can throw the ball away without incurring an intentional grounding call. You have a rookie whose feet are so set that he is not fast enough to climb the pocket, let alone take off and run.
Yep. I mean, you just nailed it. All right, let's not even talk about how the Raiders aren't going to finish with a winning record, because that was Josh McDaniels. A lot of that's in the past. Let's talk about what's happening right now with Antonio Pierce, because, at the same time, we're both on the same side here with, we should have Antonio Pierce moving forward in Las Vegas. And so let's advocate for it a little bit here. The Raiders, with this fourth-round quarterback, who's quite frankly never, not once, not on one single throw of the season, has looked as if he could ever be QB1 caliber, they have a very high chance of ending with a winning record, again, just under AP. And they've done it with wins versus the Chiefs and the Jets. And I'm going to say the Jets because their defense is absolutely no joke whatsoever. And, they've done it versus... Just consistently. They've done it consistently. And what I'm trying to say...
Yeah, against some of the better defenses in the conference. Because remember, the Chiefs' defense was a top 5 defense. A top defense. The Jets was a top 10 defense. What was a top 10 defense? Was one of the top 5, I believe, when they played them.
I think they were top 2. I think it was Cleveland and them.
Yeah. So they've beaten the top defenses in the league. Dog walked the Chargers.
Dog walked, yeah. Absolutely, man. And, the point I'm just trying to say is they've done this with Aiden O'Connell, who is, again, never, not one throw of the season looked QB1 caliber. He just hasn't. And if they could get a guy like Penix, McCarthy, it doesn't matter, guys who at least have that potential, who have flashed it on throws before, on runs, whatever. I mean, they could. They're gonna have a winning record, assuming they beat Denver. That's such a bold assumption, but I'm gonna just assume that they're gonna have a winning record. And you bring in like just whatever quarterback that they're eyeing. Just go for your guy because all the pieces are there. Is what I'm trying to say, and we know that for a fact based on how this season has played out with Antonio Pierce.
Absolutely. Even it's all right there. It's probably the craziest I bet in all my years of being a Raider fan that how close it is to coming together. And everybody doesn't see the vision, and I get it. People have a different vision. I understand that too. I used to fight and get mad about that shit. It is what it is. You see it your way, I see it mine. The two things can be equally true. One can be wrong, one can be right. We don't know. But I do know. But I've watched football for a very long time, and I've watched momentum on the field, and I've watched momentum off the field. And the momentum that's been built off the field can carry over if it's allowed to, and will carry over. If you want to stop the momentum, start over, do something else, that's what you could do that. But Antonio Pierce is a young man in terms of a football coach, and he has the potential to be with this team for a very long time if things go right. You have a potential Mike Tomlin and Antonio Pierce, because this man is more Raider than anything that you've put out there on the field in a very long time.
Yeah, absolutely agreed. Absolutely agreed.
I would argue, swag for swag, he's more Raider than Charles Woodson.
Oof.
Swag for swag.
I mean, different type of swag. I'll give you that.
Yeah, right. Said Charles Woodson is a Raider because of how he was as a player. Said Antonio Pierce was a Raider before he was a player.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, AP definitely brings a level that is needed that Josh McDaniels and not so much Gruden, but Josh McDaniels and I mean to a point Bisaccia really too, because Bisaccia wasn't like this either. That just swagger and attitude, and not attitude in bad.
No, it's not a bad way. It's a certain way that you carry yourself.
Certainly. Yeah. The word attitude is oftentimes associated in a bad way. My bad. I had a call. That's why I stopped. But so, yeah, just how he presents himself, it's infectious. It's infectious to the entire team. And, if there's one team in the NFL that needs an attitude like that, I mean, it's the Raiders.
It's what they were built on. It's the attitude that Al carried himself with. And the craziest part about it is that I can't for the life of me understand how people don't see it that way.
Yeah, no, same.
Cannot for me understand how people don't. That man, listen, you remember when Al used to come fitted up to the events, and you see the shit that he'd had on, and you'd want to wear that stuff?
Oh, Al's, the mojo he had, second to none. Out of any man I've ever seen in my life.
So I'm a grown ass man. Said I was a kid back then. I haven't wanted a starter jacket in decades. Almost 30 years. I watched do you remember the jacket that Pierce had on when they were at the Pac-12 championship game?
No, I don't believe so.
He had on the coldest black satin Raider jacket I thought it would.
Oh yeah, of course, yeah.
That you can't find in stores. I've looked. I've looked online. I've looked on the NFL site. I've looked in the Raiders site. Cannot find that jacket to buy it.
Yeah, man. Yeah, AP definitely has that swag about him. There's no doubt. You see AP on Instagram posting his own hype videos, basically.
No, I didn't. I
Dude,
haven't seen him on the gram. That's probably something I should look at.
oh, it's amazing, man. He posts him and the team walking out of the tunnel. Kendrick Lamar playing straight out of Compton. Not straight out of Compton. That's not what he was playing. Forgot what he's playing. Doesn't matter. But man, he just has that demeanor that screams Raider.
Right. And again, I don't know how people don't see that, but they do. They happen to not see it and want to go in a different direction and want Jim Harbaugh,
Yeah.
a man shrouded in the same type of scandal that many are calling criticism to Pierce about.
Well, at the end of the day, most of it's name value, right? With the fans, everybody knows who Jim Harbaugh is, and it's name value. Everybody knew who Josh McDaniels was. Didn't work out well. Everybody knew who John Gruden was. Situation was improving every year, so it's kind of hard to say that, it wasn't going to work out, because it sure looked like it did with Henry Ruggs and everybody when all the parts were together. But ultimately, it didn't work out. So it's just funny that fans tend to just fall for the same trick over and over because of a name.
Familiarity is what that is. And I have to stop and think about it. The name is associated with a style of play. It's associated with something that I've seen before, so that I can assume that's what I'm getting in order to give my money up. That's the whole trick.
Yep. Absolutely, man.
We brought up the Gruden. It's kind of fun, and it's at a point now with me. I guess I've seen it happen so many times that now I recognize the banana in the tailpipe when I see it.
Yeah, man. I mean, the Gruden situation is kind of a one-off, I guess you could say, because it's a very unique situation on how things went down. But nonetheless, it ultimately is chopped up in the same category because we didn't get to see how, what things were materializing into. So it ends up being chopped into the same one.
Because we had we went from how we would have had and Randy wow, Randy Moss didn't work out. Antonio Brown never played a down. Devontae Adams came in, balled out first year. Second year was a disappointment by anyone's standards for the caliber of play he's used to putting out.
Yeah.
Still a good season, but the result was unsatisfactory.
Yeah, well, it was a good season, and he is an elite player, so a good season is really falling short. But yeah,
and it's it's funny. So your offensive gurus continue to come up short with elite players, or somehow it just doesn't work.
Yeah, and I think we go back to how, like you said, fuck them picks, man. Whoever they believe to be the quarterback, they have to go all in on them. They really do, because I just don't know what else this roster needs. You can argue offensive line, and yeah, I'm sure that would help a bit.
You can pick that up in free agency. At this point, I'd much rather pay top money to a positional player that has had success at this level.
Yeah.
Or you could stop and look at the tape against Texas and realize that while many were looking at Texas's defensive line, you forgot to look at the offensive line of Washington that was keeping Michael Penix Jr. clean.
Yeah, certainly. And I also, this is kind of straying off topic now, but I actually think the offensive line really hasn't played that bad at multiple times throughout the season. You don't really think about this, but as the offensive line, you're more so, a lot of it is predicting what you think the quarterback will do because you can't see the quarterback. You know, your back is to him, so you're kind of predicting what's going to happen, and so you're predicting that the guy is going to sense pressures coming in one way and move one way, and Aiden O'Connell just never moved. So a lot of it is just offensive line is predicting like, oh, Aiden O'Connell's going to sneak out this way or that way. Aiden O'Connell's just standing there. So I really don't think they're particularly bad. Point being, you bring in a guy that can move like McCarthy, Penix, I mean, really anybody in this upcoming draft, and I don't think it's going to be a problem. They're just going to dance around in the pocket and be fine.
If not dance around in the pocket, definitely take off and take opportunities when you're there. When they're there. Now, I will say that the one now while we're talking about all of that stuff, what really is the problem is that means that once the play breaks down, if it's not there, he's got nowhere to go with the football but to sit there and hold it.
Yeah, and we've seen that all season. All season. That's really been his Achilles heel in college, and well, you see it here.
And locking on to one receiver and not letting him go. So
Yep.
you have a vast array at your disposal, and you're not using them. That's not winning football good enough. But again, he took care of the football, didn't stop throwing interceptions, and that instantly made him better than Jimmy and Brian Hoyer, which to some craziness people actually want to see again. Have convinced themselves that that's the answer.
Yeah. I mean, let's be honest with ourselves. Even if the Raiders were better with Jimmy Garoppolo, it wasn't going to be enough. So it's nothing.
I guess people have forgotten what they saw with Jimmy Garoppolo.
Yeah, I mean,
so I was like, you found Trey Tucker with Aiden O'Connell. Well, guess what? With Jimmy, you're getting ready to lose him again because Jimmy can't throw.
yeah, everybody forgot about that. Jimmy Garoppolo wasn't attempting anything.
Throw.
Yeah, he wasn't attempting anything downfield. And I actually remember Aiden O'Connell's first start against the Chargers, I'm pretty sure. There's the big play to Trey Tucker downfield, and everybody was just so caught off guard because they never saw that with Jimmy.
Mm-hmm. And then it's like, oh my God, he threw it down the field. We can do that. Just crazy. Like, oh my goodness.
Yeah, it is crazy.
But again, like I said, everybody doesn't see things the way that I see it. I have to just come to grips with that and just let you guys know you're all wrong if you don't, because this is you're free to have your wrong opinion. I'm not gonna blame you. Not gonna talk bad about you. Just let you know that you're wrong.
I mean, I think you have a point, man, because everything that fans want to happen has been happening with the Raiders, and they don't really realize it. And it hasn't worked. It's just never worked, and they still keep calling for it in a different form. They keep calling for the same thing in a new, fancy, dressed-up version of it, but it's the same thing. And when it doesn't work, fans are like, "Wow, I can't believe it."
Running out of nostalgia acts.
Yeah.
Because Harbaugh is 60, and it's just about over for him. This is probably going to be his last stop as a coach, whatever his next stop is going to be it. Whether that be Michigan or going to the NFL, wherever it is that he goes, because he's 60 years old.
Yeah, certainly. And for all intents and purposes, I'm just gonna say this because I'm a Michigan fan. As a coach, everything aside what I said about why I think AP should be the guy, and when you bring in Harbaugh, you need to change all these parts that don't need to be changed. All that aside, I will also add that as a coach, I genuinely, as a Michigan fan, think that John Harbaugh is a gimmick. I genuinely believe that, and I'm really not a fan.
That John Harbaugh is a gimmick?
Yeah, I really believe that. I really think that here's the thing. John Harbaugh, throughout his career, has had the same quarterback from college to pros. It doesn't matter. A guy that is typically very athletic for his competition, like a guy like even Shea Patterson, because Shea Patterson was terrible, but he was mildly athletic, and in comparison to the people that he was playing against in college, he was shifty and he's very good mobile. And JJ McCarthy, same way. JJ McCarthy is definitely much faster, as was Kaepernick. But, it's these guys he relies on to really do almost like a one read offense. JJ McCarthy is a bit of an exception because he presents a little bit of a more advanced skill set. But it's these guys that it's like, look here, and if it's not there, run and take off at the ball. And that's really been the gimmick his whole way. Michigan hasn't really been able to win a lot, and not throughout the regular season, but as far as making the college football playoffs goes and then winning games. And before JJ, they couldn't even get there. So I just don't believe his vision works. I genuinely don't. And it worked when they caught teams off guard in the pros with Kaepernick. They got to the Super Bowl, and it didn't work at all after that. The following season, when people got to sit on the tape, everybody saw what was going on. It didn't work at all. He was gone, went to Michigan. It just never worked.
I didn't really talk about it like that, but dude, that's definitely an interesting observation to bring up, and the fact that it was all centered around some type of zone read play action, where and a lot of offense is based off play action. I mean, it is what it is right now.
Yeah.
But again, it's not groundbreaking, earth shattering. Nothing he's going to do is going to be new.
Yeah, certainly. And I don't think it's optimal for the NFL. I mean, we saw it was optimal for the season where, it was brand new and everybody was like, wow, I haven't seen this before. And, it's so simple. That's probably why nobody's ever seen it before, because it was so simple. Nobody ever thought to be that simple. And then once the word was out on the streets, I mean, that was it. San Francisco was terrible after that, with the same quarterback, same, there's different parts, but it was everything that was at the center. The following season, after that Super Bowl run, after teams were able to digest what's going on and see it, and they were terrible, man.
And once they realize that once the quarterback exposes himself as a runner, you can go ahead and light him up, and you can kill two birds with one stone.
Yeah, man. And everybody always expects me to be such a big Jim Harbaugh supporter because I'm a Michigan fan, and I'm just not, man. I'm just not.
Well, I will have you know that when you talked bad about Jim Harbaugh, you called him his brother John. Did it twice, actually. So, and when I asked you about it, you doubled down and did it one more time. But when you spoke highly of Jim, then it was Jim Harbaugh. That is some real twisted shit, my friend.
Wait, what? What did I do?
Said when you were speaking about Jim Harbaugh negatively, you called him John and said the thing about and talked about how he was a variation of a zone readish type or a read type offense based off of power when he wasn't running power, and utilized some quarterback with average mobility.
I called John.
You called him John 3 times, I believe.
Oh, I didn't even realize.
Then when you went to speak about him and how, that as a good thing, it was Jim again. I said, that's pretty twisted. Man.
Wait. Yeah, that's literally twisted.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, John, I think, is a great coach. I think John is a phenomenal coach. Jim, on the other hand, sorry that I said John. I didn't even mean to say John one single time in that. But I'm just not a Jim Harbaugh fan. I can't even believe I called him John.
Yeah, a couple times. Yeah. And then when I asked you about it, kept right on going like I hadn't said anything.
Yeah, well, whatever. It is what it is. I'm so disgusted by Jim, man. I didn't even want to talk about him. I wanted to talk about his brother.
He said, I'm on a roll. I'm not stopping. We are the trash Harbaugh brigade. This ought to go over well.
Look, bro, honestly, I'm gonna be honest. I blame the parents for this one. They shouldn't have named them so similar.
Dad's name was Jack.
Jesus Christ, I didn't even know that.
What are you talking about?
I gotta blame the parents on this one, man.
Hey, whatever works. Whatever works. Listen, and I'm not saying, and don't get me wrong, it's not to say that Jim Harbaugh's not a great coach, not a good coach. Not, this is just not. There's a better fit for what this team is, for what this team can be moving forward, in a way that Harbaugh's not going to fit that bill. You know, the Pete Carrolls are not. You know what I mean? They're not. What's the word I'm looking for? The norm. You're not gonna see a 70-year-old guy running around acting like he is 20 years old with one of the guys putting in 90 hour work weeks day after day.
I mean, yeah, look, for anybody who even thinks that might be a tangible comparison, let's stop the bullshit really quick, because Pete has completely flipped the franchise around and stayed there this entire time, and created a name. And Pete can let me say this, bro. Pete can walk in any bar in Seattle, any single one, and he will be served. He will not pay a dime. They will worship him.
Mm-hmm.
And that is the difference, the integral difference of comparing the two. Right there. I don't even know if Jim can do that in Michigan, man. I don't even know if Jim can do that in Michigan. Because if he wins this game coming up,
if he wins, he will.
If he wins, he certainly can. But other than that, though, he certainly can't do it in San Francisco.
No, where Pete was Jim's big bad wolf, where he would give the opportunity for Andy to be his big bad wolf. But he does topple the big bad wolf. He just doesn't fully put him away. But in terms of that, once again, it took Kaepernick. Kaepernick took the world by storm with the pistol and the zone read. But the whole world is doing that now, so that's not innovative. And everything that he's going to bring will be something that he's already put on tape and shown and can be studied by better defenses all the way around, better defensive coordinators.
Yeah, man. Another thing that gets me too is this is getting away from just the gym specifically and more so focusing on the Raiders roster. Is this offense, it should be designed for a quarterback to not so much do whatever the fuck he wants. That's a strong choice of words, but for the quarterback to be in control with the weapons everywhere. You should not have to tie him down to just one guy for whoever the play is designed for. On certain plays, obviously that's a thing, more so on the trick play category, but just generally speaking, this is an offense where the quarterback should go through 3-4 reads and somebody is going to be open because there's too many threats. And the guys like Harbaugh and the guys like Josh McDaniels especially, they're the guys that's the play is going to this guy. No, none of that, man. This roster is too good for all that.
Or you start scheming for certain situations for them to be open in that situation. But the largest issue that I have, and we'll get ready to wrap this up, is that the schemes that are put out there are always so clustered and never spread. If you're running with a younger guy, you're running with some younger guys who've shown issues with placement and being in the right exact spots, and spread out the field. Like you got a blitz happy team. I've never seen a blitz happy team with 5 wide out. Like, you want to blitz? Please be my guest.
Please
be my guest. You blitz all you want to, that's why, which is why Washington is going to beat Michigan.
Oh, don't say that, man! Don't say that.
Because they'll spread them out. They'll spread them out, and the Michigan DBs aren't as good as all of the Washington wide receivers.
I mean, I hope not, man. For my fandom, I hope not.
I could understand that you don't, but I'd like to see, as a fan of the Ohio State Buckeyes, I would very much like to see Washington go ahead and pull this out for the now defunct Pac-12. It'd be awesome for them to have won the national championship and not be around to claim it.
Oh, I don't even want to hear anything from you, man. If you're a Buckeyes fan, forget about it.
And not be around to claim it. But we gone 55 minutes deep. We've talked about, we got away from where I had initially thought, and this just kind of flowed. So, hey, this is the AP Cast. I'm Phil, he's Alex, and we're out.
Howdy.